all right?
Okay.
So this is, as I had said, as some of you were coming on earlier, that this campfire chat is the first in the series for this school year from Field Adventures, where our mission is engaging the rock skipping, frog catching spirit that lives within you. So I guess that's our way of saying that we create hope as well. And my team from left to right, Victoria Rydberg is one of our advisors. That's me, Sandy Benton. I am a field educator. One of our board members is Cheryl Chanel, an outdoor a field educator and great leader in the northern part of the state. Ashley Hegewald is a field educator up in the Wittenberg, Burnham Wood region. And Emily, who you just met a little bit ago, Emily Foster Hill is a field educator located in Madison. And we're all so happy that you're here today. And just to give you a little idea of what our funding to support these projects, particularly campfire chats, we have here these particular sponsors. I won't read them. You can quickly get an idea of who these groups are. And I really want to take some time today, as Stephen reminded me earlier, that we are recognizing Indigenous people on October 10th, Indigenous Peoples Day. However, as Field Adventures, we wish to give a land acknowledgement. We typically do this at the start of all of our sessions. So you see here a map of Wisconsin, and you can kind of see where you're situated and in relation to seats of government of the tribes of Wisconsin. Field Adventures acknowledges, recognizes, and respects the Indigenous people and lands we are on throughout this training. We recognize the American Indian nations and tribal communities, past, present, and future, as being the stewards of the land and their continued relationship to their traditional territories. We acknowledge and honor the inherent sovereignty of Wisconsin's 11 federally recognized American Indian nations and tribal communities whose seats of government are indicated on the map at right. And if you are so moved, I invite you to recognize the historic ancestral lands where you're coming from. So I'm Sandy, and I'm in Hortonville, Wisconsin, which is native land of the Menominee people.
Excellent. I'm Steve Rippe, and I'm from St. Paul, and we have several nations that are involved in where I live. Today I will recognize and honor the Ojibwe people.
And Kathy doesn't have a microphone, but she's on the Hope Chunk land and from Rock County. And Jeanette is in Cumberland and is recognizing the St. Croix band of the Chippewa. And we also have, so I want to turn things over to our guest speaker today, who you've met, Dr. Stephen Rippe. And Stephen is one of my dear friends and colleagues, and he's a thought partner for a lot of the work that we collaborate on. So I want to welcome Stephen. And Stephen, you are going to teach, we're going to learn and plan about the Day of Hope.
Right. Well, hey, thanks for joining us today. One of the things that is such a powerful thing to do is to think about how we can grow hope for ourselves. And we live in a time where there's all sorts of different challenges that are out there. And for us to be able to counter all those challenges and lead a joyful, robust, creative, innovative life is something we have to be intentional about. It's easy for us to be pulled off center and to be in a place that isn't ideal. And so one of the things that we did as a community is we created the Day of Hope. And we recognize there are different ways to celebrate, and there are different days of hope out there. So we want to honor the different ones that are out there. We also wanted to create a universal one that really encouraged people to really do and practice what does it mean to grow hope? What is hope and how do I grow it? And so what we're going to do today is we're going to talk a little bit about the Day of Hope, how to activate it and how to use it, and then how to do some planning around it, right? And so next Friday is the Day of Hope. And you can think of it not as just a Friday, but that's a time where we're going to come together and practice and talk about the Day of Hope and the different strategies we're going to do to grow hope. So I've attached a guide for you around growing hope. And so let's see. Is it possible for you, Sandy, to pop that open and then share that?
I sure can.
And then I invite you as an individual to open that up and then take a look at that, because it's a pretty straightforward way to think about it and quite an empowering paradigm. So I want to walk you through it and then kind of talk a little bit about, well, how are different people thinking about it and utilizing it, right? So first of all, if you want, you can register for the Day of Hope. It's free. The idea is we really wanted to create an opportunity for people to, everyone to be involved. So it's really a free event that is for individuals, it's for schools, it's for community members to be involved in, right? So if you want, you can register for it. I encourage you to register for it, because then there's some different activities and things that you could be involved in if you want that are super fun. So I'll pause and just see if there are any questions at this point. People able to open it up, see it? Okay. So, so the idea with this is that when we think about growing hope, hope is when we take something we want or desire and be really pragmatic about it. We want to move it to a place where it's helps us have agency around who we are, and create some goals that allow us to be able to something that's meaningful up to us and a pathway to do it. Now, it doesn't have to be complicated at all. It could be one of those things, if you just stop and thought for yourself, what would be hopeful for you to do yet today? So let me pose that question. If you were to think about what would be hopeful, and it can be very small, right? What might be something that you could do yet today that would grow hope for you? Can I hear a couple ideas or anything in the chat? I'll put it here in the chat. Go ahead.
So that was, I apologize to everyone. I'm using the chat, and that was for Emily is going to paste where the link takes the direct website. Okay. So for me, Stephen, I would really like to get out and enjoy the beautiful color.
Yeah.
It is so lovely today where I'm living, and it's like a perfect day, and I want to capture that physically and as a memory as the seasons change.
Right, right. And I have to say to you that if I thought about what would grow hope for me, I've spent the whole day inside, right? And so for me to go for a walk would be really hopeful. And my dog would love it too. So I could raise hope two different ways. How about someone else? Any other ideas about how you might grow hope for yourself?
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Oh, great. Hi, this is Kat. My hope, this is a little bit recursive, but my hope is meeting you all. Because in my work, this is something we try to do on a professional development level to keep educators engaged and hopeful. And so I'm very hopeful that by meeting you all and learning more about the Day of Hope, that will be another touch point that we can bring to practitioners.
Yeah, yeah. Well, excellent. And so those are things that so it doesn't have to be overly complicated, right? It can be very simple. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through a tool that we use around thinking about hope. And the way it begins is it begins with a brainstorm, thinking about what are things that we might do. And then conceptualizing it, going, okay, so how about if we do this, right? Or how about if I do this or we do this? And then I love to ask myself, if I'm doing it for just me, have I thought about everything I need as an individual? If I'm doing it with my students or with a team, then I want to ask myself, have I thought about it in a way that everyone can do this joyfully, that they can be involved joyfully? And then I love to step back for a little bit and then ask myself, is there anything else that I could interconnect with it, right? Like, say, for example, I'd love to go outside today. Boy, I haven't ridden my bike much. Riding my bike might be really fun, might be a really good thing to do. If I was doing it in a school with a bunch of students, I might ask myself, is there a way that I could connect my idea around growing hope with someone else, like an English teacher or something, where we might go out and do some activity and do some writing around something, right? Or maybe I connect with people about making some food as part of a project or some kind of thing, and we share that, right? Then I look at, because I'm such an experiential learning guy, and I love how experiences work, I think about, is there any experience that I could add to it that would deepen it, right? And then lastly, I think about how I might reflect and celebrate on it. Now, you don't have to do all this, but these are things that deepen the idea of growing hope. And it's really helpful when you're working with a team or when you're thinking about working with it and introducing it as part, with your students or as a whole school. Okay. So that'll be the process, right? So the idea of the big idea and brainstorming. I could share with you some of the ideas people have, but I'd love to hear if someone has an idea for their Day of Hope, what they might do. Somebody have anything that they're thinking about doing on the Day of Hope?
Well, Stephen, would it be all right if I started this process last Friday with a group of fifth graders that I work with?
Yeah.
The teachers are in a meeting right now. It's the parent-teacher conference week, but fifth graders at Maple Grove Charter School. It's a very small school just outside of Wausau. And the school has lots of really interesting and unique outdoor spaces that are available to teachers and students in the whole community. So what I brought forth to the fifth graders was this template, and we kind of started walking through it in our own way.
Yeah.
And I gave them kind of a parameter, like when you think about these natural spaces here at Maple Grove, like what are some of the big ideas of what this space is available for you? So they worked in teams, and I have their templates, and they started first working on this individually, like thinking, and then with conversation and getting it down with their partner. And they went with things like food, oxygen, shelter, firewood. They make forts. They find it's calming, and it's cool in terms of not temperature, but they like it.
Yeah.
And then from there, we kind of grew like the big ideas around it. Like, what were the things that really spoke to them? So I had charted it then, and then we voted. Do you ever use like the dot method of,
Yeah.
like, you get three
Great.
stickers? I didn't have 3 stickers, so I put the chart down. I'm like, grab 2 small items. It could be 2 little rocks or whatever. So then they kind of voted, and so we came up with 3 really big things that we could bring it together. So it basically came down to, they wanted to be, they love it for relaxation. They love the outdoors for like physical recreation. So like, then they're conceptualizing, their summary of their idea became nature, calm, it calms us and energizes us. So that and brings us hope that way. So that's their summary. So that's how we launched it. And then we started thinking about like some ways, things that they would really like to do. And it was really interesting that these kids, they want to have some time to do absolutely nothing. Like, you've been pushing them hard. They want time to just, there's like kind of 2 ends of the continuum, like, and not a lot in the middle. They want time to just be, and some of the kids want time to just really move.
Right. Right. Wow, that's really powerful, Sandy.
Mm-hmm.
I love how you gave them voice and allowed them to find what grows hope for them. To time to do nothing, to just be, is powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Really powerful. And often something we miss when we go outside, because we feel like we should be doing something rather than being actively involved in the natural setting, just being present, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's really great. And then when you came down to personalizing, then some kids might be interested in being more physically active.
Right.
Okay. Really, really, really great. All right. So, and then I see Jeanette here has got something. Jeanette, would you like to use your voice, or do you want me to read it?
I think earlier Jeanette said she didn't have a microphone.
Oh, that's right. That's what I was thinking. I'm thinking, Jeanette, right? I'm thinking about a poster paper that library patrons could add their hopes, thoughts to, but not sure how to frame the question. Oh, wow. That, do you know what a vision board is, Jeanette? So vision boards are super powerful. And, you know, when you take a wall and you say, what grows hope for us? right? And then people take, and then they add their ideas to that, becomes this community thing that is really powerful. I don't know if that's the direction you're going in, but I'm just building off of your idea, helping you conceptualize it. So vision boards are great for individuals, and you can do it as an advisory. You can do it as a team. You can do it as a school. So Kath, do you want to use your voice?
Is it working? Can I?
Yep.
Sorry about that. I'm having some issues on my end. Yeah, because I love the idea of this, the National Day of Hope, or Global Day of Hope. And I think a lot of us in the nonprofit, non-formal education world have really been buffeted the last 2 years. So I don't want to get on anybody's agenda too much with short notice, but I thought maybe to carry on in the spirit, we could do an asynchronous call for ideas or call for hope, and use that as a way to kind of pull us all back together as we move forward. And then perhaps if there are themes that are common, use that as a topic that we can explore a little deeper in the coming year.
Yeah. And know that people have asked us to make this an annual thing. So next year will be the first. We decided we're going to try and do it every year on the first Friday of October.
Oh, that's great. And I'm sorry if I missed this at the very beginning, but who is we? Who is this being sponsored by?
Oh, so Talent Enthusiast is the name of the group that runs and sort of has this network of people that grow hope. And we use a tool called the Hope Survey. And it's been a work that was started by Mark Van Ryzen and Dr. Ron Newell years ago. I was one of their folks that was involved in that, supporting their research and then implementing it out in the community. And we definitely love it when schools, individuals, communities, businesses, and folks all participate. That's fantastic.
Terrific.
Yeah. So would love to have you here, and you're an important part of this work. So my son is a scout, and he has a project that we're going to go out and spend time on, where do you ever stencil drains for ponds? Anybody ever do that as an environmental thing, where you take an area and you figure out where it all drains to, and then you do a stenciling thing like drains to the ponds? Yes, Emily, yes. So that kind of thing. So he has this project where we're going to go out, and there's a few ponds where I live where they're really contaminated. And what we're going to do is we're going to backtrack that, and then and we're going to go and drop off little informational tags on the doors, and then we're going to spray paint the drains to the pond kind of thing, I guess. So that's one of the things I'm doing on the Day of Hope. So if it's helpful, I could brainstorm and share some other ideas that people are doing.
Stephen, could I add a couple questions?
Always, please.
About how to, thank you. Because I'm thinking about, I'm not sure if I'll be able to implement it directly this next week, but I am going to share it with the school that I am coaching, and we're just getting off the ground with our outdoor ed, because they kind of have scheduled times for it, and it's just taken a little while to get moving, which is great that they have it scheduled, I should say. But so next week, I'm going to share this information with all of them during a monthly meeting, and we'll follow up with them too about how they would like to integrate it. just kind of as a general resource, because I can see this being used in different capacities there by different teachers. And I know they're trying to incorporate social emotional learning lessons that aren't necessarily segmented to a certain type of project or time of day. So I really look forward to sharing this with them. But I wanted to ask too, with the timing of this is pretty powerful too, because I was thinking about next week's, Indigenous Peoples Day.
Right.
There's the National Day of Coming Out. I mean, there's a lot of angles that this Day of Hope can really elevate and celebrate and help next week. So I just wanted to mention that and ask if you have groups that are bringing in those different realms of support, or school groups that have been able to kind of collaborate with you, maybe along those lines.
Thank you for giving voice to that. That's really powerful, and it makes me hopeful that you would even bring that up. Thank you. So we do, and one of the things that as we grow this, different people chime in. I was with a school in downtown Minneapolis, and they're thinking about that's their mindset. They're calling it a Hope Week, and so I love that. You don't have to limit it to a day, but it is powerful to do that. If I was going to work with a school and they just didn't have a lot of time, right? I would invite them to have like a hope moment, right? Or a theme for the day. Let's try and be kind. Let's try and create a sense of belongingness. Let's try to be really inclusive today as part of our Day of Hope. Something simple, right? That doesn't take any prep or anything, but it's just an idea that helps grow some of the elements in hope. Is that helpful?
Yes, that's very helpful. Thank you. And that gives me a lot of hope to hear that they're running with it for a full week and it's going to span all these things. Because I think in the past too, with some of my experiences working in early childhood and in settings where we would have we called them citizenship goals. I would now go back and change it to community goals because of the language awareness. But just thinking about how, daily we would have different ways of being a positive, kind citizen and speaking up, and how would we do that? And so, yes, I think that's exciting to hear. Thank you for sharing those ideas.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So let's see. Around the political and we had a comment around, if you did a vision wall, how do you deal with the political and the religious conflict and those kinds of things? And yes, so that when we do this, sometimes what I do with my vision board is I have them instead of writing words, I have them have a picture about what does it look like. And so that kind of softens that a little bit for me as an issue. One of the things I know about growing hope is that if we learn to listen to each other's viewpoints and be open to hearing everyone, then we create a sense of equity of voice. And that's really a common central theme in growing hope, is letting everyone have a voice and using their voice and then honoring everyone's collective voice. And by doing that, we're more effective as a team, we're more hopeful as both individuals and as a group, and we're more creative and innovative. And those things are all just high value in this world we live in. Some folks around their brainstorming big ideas, they love, I have a couple of schools that are going to make food and share food. It's part of their cultural piece. I have a Somali school that is going to take, and they're going to make food from their culture, and they're going to share it. And I have another group that's going to go out and do a service learning project together, and as a group, and they're doing it as with adults and students. I have other folks who are just as adults in a school. I have adults in a wealth management group that basically what they're going to do is they're going to take some time and for themselves to figure out how to grow hope for themselves as individuals. And I think it's awesome. A superintendent, Wally Leaphart from Gilman, shared with me once that he did this thing around fill my cup. And it was a simple thing where he set aside an hour to allow people, his staff, to figure out what they need to do to fill their cup. In other words, to grow hope for themselves. And I thought that was brilliant. So there are many different ways that people do this. I have a Phi-Ed teacher who is going to, they see all the students in 2 days. So on Thursday and Friday, they're going to do a thing where they're going to work on some of the elements of hope around belongingness, inclusion, those kinds of things, and agency to, as they frame different activities to really encourage the kids to be inclusive and create a sense of belongingness. I think that's fascinating. We have some art teachers doing some art activities that which is akin to the idea of the vision board, where they're going to have people all contribute an idea around hope. If you've been around and heard some of my other things, I love the idea of a time capsule. You know, there's lots of different ones that we've been using. I have a couple of different schools that I like the idea of time capsules that are either digital ones. You can look up a digital time capsule, they're fun. Or ones where we're not necessarily bearing it, but we're creating something and then inviting people to put things into it and close it up. And then like a common thing that we've been doing now is, you know, kids decorate it all and then they lift it up and then it says time capsule. And at the end of the year, they bring it back down and then open it up and look into it. And then as a writing project, what I love to do is to challenge people to think about their year. And if you had the most hopeful year, if things, if you thought about what you'd like to achieve, what might that be? And what might be some of the things you have to do in order to get there? And so it really is a great way for folks to really personalize that, put that in a letter, and away it goes. So, so those are some brainstorm ideas around those kinds of things. I'm going to go back up and look in. So Sandy, can you talk a little bit about your message in here?
Oh, yeah. So this summer, Stephen, when you were leading an adult advisory, you had that graphic about like it's sort of like the challenge and like where that sweet spot is for growth and growing hope, and that sometimes what we need is to figure out like what's going to fuel us and to lift us up is like getting some other people to share that load alongside us.
Oh, right.
So often I think we as those of us in education, we think like we have to plan it all out, and we have these experts that are with us in the form of our students or colleagues or community members, how to engage them.
Well, one of the things, thank you, Sandy, with that is that I think it's important when I'm growing hope for myself that I pause and do that for me. When I'm doing it with myself, my family, I can stop and then I can take the time to really focus on what we might all do and what we might all contribute to do it. When you move into teams, that's where actually this guide is really helpful, is that then we can turn and then make sure that people have voices, and then recognize that as we do this, there are certain parts of it that some people will be excited to do, and you want those people to do that, and for those, there'll be parts where people won't want to do those kinds of things, right? And so we really want to make sure that as we're brainstorming it always remains joyful for you and other people in the work, so they find what engages them, that what ignites them. And so if you look at the experiences part where we come down here, that's why it's important for us to brainstorm with people and say, well, what might be some experiences that you might do? And you know how you did that with the folks from Maple Grove, Sandy, when you talked with the kids, and so they came up with different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so different kids could lead different parts of that activity, right?
Right.
And then what that does is it, instead of making it feel like it's all on your shoulders, because you don't want to do that, you want to just position it so you say what's possible, and have people find the things that are within their natural talent and their strengths that they're excited to do, right?
Right.
So let's look a little bit about, let's talk a little bit about some of the experiences that might ignite the engagement in this. Does anybody have any ideas around some kind of activities or things that people might naturally want to do? I have a group that I think today they met with the student council in a school, and basically asked them around, as student leadership, what might you do to ignite engagement with the kids around growing hope? And so what happens then is you're reaching out to a group that's set aside to provide some leadership for the school. And what I find is most often groups like that are waiting for something meaningful to do. They're waiting for something. And so for you to arrive with a powerful opportunity for them to really think through that gives them a place and a direction to engage and make something happen that many hands like rope work piece. Thoughts? Any thoughts so far?
Stephen, I'm seeing this as a really important element that tends to maybe be left out of service projects sometimes, or kind of shortchanged in relation to the reflection piece of those kinds of experiences. And I wanted to ask, as students tend to start doing those when they're older elementary age. What are some of the youngest ages that you worked with in some of these experiences, and have you seen a benefit to kind of, I know this particular project is newer in a sense, but doing kind of these types of activities repeatedly or every year, and the impact, and so that they can grow it as they get older and initiate on their own. I'm just curious how that's worked for you.
Oh, what a great question. I used to hesitate about going with the younger kids and doing it, but I found the younger kids, they jump right into it. They love this stuff. And so then if you turn to them and really help them be in a position to ask them what you think, what do they think? What do you think? How might we make a difference? They're going to be eager to do that. School in Wisconsin, we restarted a school called Rolling Stone, that school was really built on these young kids. It's the elementary kids really taking leadership roles, and then really taking activities and things like that, and going out and creating outdoor learning centers. Like they built a trail, right? That was a guided trail where they had little placards and things they made that identified plants and different activities. And they created a bench and different things that along the way. It was really fun. And but those were one of those things that when you ask them, you might be surprised on how capable and willing they are.
Absolutely. No, I just have to thank you for sharing that. I've had some of the most open and honest conversations with early childhood students about these topics. It's amazing. And then to help older students begin to open up more about this too. And they're just craving the chance to have this. So thank you for that example.
Yeah, and it's a good example of multi-age classrooms and why they work, or multi-age learning situations and why they work. Because the longer you stay in this world, the more you might experience moments of hopelessness, right? And challenges that make you a little more callous. And this is the gift these younger kids can bring to us, in terms of they're more open. They're more open and ready to take some of those risks. And so sometimes mentoring is better when the kid's older, and sometimes there's value with these young kids coming out and leading some of this stuff.
And to piggyback on that, Jeanette in the chat, she says she's going to start with the library staff, try this activity with them first, maybe expand it to include our book club, parents at story time, small groups. Yeah, I'm thinking, like, as you're both talking, Jeanette, via the chat, and Stephen and Emily over mics, but yeah, like how can that just be like part of a piece of a story time? I have experienced those are so powerful and fun with my children when they were younger. Yeah, like how do you take advantage of giving voice to those really tiny tasks?
Well, that's such a good idea, that story time, and then integrating that into it, and as either a discussion point or an activity that you could do in it. Ooh, that has a huge potential in that. I do find that sometimes scaffolding, where I do it with adults first and then with students, is a great way to kind of get people ready or get their mindset on it. And sometimes I find that the adults are actually the boot draggers, and the kids are actually ready to go, if that makes sense. That's a technical term, boot dragger.
So Jeanette has added she likes to include writing with the reading at story time. So asking children is always easier for her. She's a former early childhood special ed teacher. So yeah, you and Emily have that in common. The multi-age idea Emily's adding. And Stephen, I'm a little curious. One about your template. I sense that the template is kind of to give some shape and help facilitate, and it's not necessarily something like you have to really have developed all of these questions really well in order to begin implementation. So is that something that I'm correct in understanding with your template?
Absolutely, because see, it's only use the guide as where it's helpful. The each of these elements that are in there are a component when we think about how do we grow hope. These are elements the research tells us that are powerful to consider. But as you think about what makes sense for you, only take the ones that really activate and are useful for you. You know, for me, considerations like it's just to have you pause and go, hey, are there any other partners or experts or resources that we could just activate? Is Mr. Johnson just down the street who's really into this thing? Would he be willing to come and be a community expert? Or are there other folks that might join us that could raise the whole thing up the next level, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and then there's the reflect and celebrate piece, right? And so for me, one of the things about growing hope is taking the time to recognize and appreciate, whether it's going for a walk tonight yet, and recognizing the beauty of the space, being present in the time, and those kinds of things. And so when I'm with a group, I really try and do a thing where we take the time to reflect and celebrate. So so one of the things that we're doing with the Day of Hope is let's see, can I get to the schedule for
Okay, I will stop share.
Okay. Do you have by chance the schedule for the day?
Oh, is that where we registered, right?
Right. Let's see if you can pull that up,
I can pull that up.
and then I'll talk a little bit about this. So
All right.
what we recognize is that in the Day of Hope is that for some people, building and creating and doing growing hope really works, right? And then let's see. So yep, there you go. And we could so let's look at the schedule. Can you go down there? Okay. See all. How's that? Will that get us to where we want to be?
Yes,
Okay.
I believe it does.
Beautiful. Sandy, thank you so much for being on the moment here. So what we do is we want people to really create and do something on their own, right? And grow hope in a manner that works for you. We also know that there are other people who what grows hope for them is to be interconnected with others and talking about growing hope and seeing what other people are doing. So we offer this other opportunity, and this other opportunity is for people to join us online, and there's a Zoom piece. And at 9 o'clock, we'll have an opening ceremony where we just invite kids and adults and other people just to say hello to each other and talk about what they're doing for their Day of Hope. Because for lots of kids and adults, having other people from different parts of the country and perhaps other parts of the world being able to say, hey, this is what we're doing on the Day of Hope is a way that takes them out of their world they're in every day, and imagine what it's like to be in Hawaii. Imagine what it's like to be in Milwaukee when you're from a small town, right? So that's the opening, and feel free to join us on that if you like. At between 10 and 11, we're going to celebrate 20 years of growing hope, because there have been thousands and thousands of people that we've been able to touch over the years. And we're going to recognize Dr. Ron Newell and Dr. Mark Van Ryzen, and they're going to share and talk a little bit about growing hope, some of their insights along the way. I just met with Mark Van Ryzen, brilliant professor from University of Oregon, and he was talking about some strategies that are really effective. Then from 11 to 12, we're going to talk about designing environments that grow hope. And so for a period of time, I worked with Ed Visions and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and when we went around and created these really cool, innovative schools all over the country. Some of you might be from them. And what we did is we used this architect firm, Fielding International, and they helped us really create these really interesting environments that boost engagement and therefore boost hope in both students and staff. And they have a whole library of free stuff. And if you're looking to improve your environment, whether it's at work or at school, whether you're a board member or a teacher, a parent, or a student, I invite you to join us on that. Again, all this is free. There you go. And then at 12, this is what we're calling round the horn. Myself and a few other people are addicted to sailing, so that's the old sailing metaphor where you round the horn. And this is where people are going to check in, and we'd love for you to come and just share some photographs, a picture. It could just be you saying, hey, this is what I'm doing on the Day of Hope. Hello. And then we'll just have some conversation around that. From 1 to 2, I used to run the Center for Experiential Learning at the University of Minnesota. And then I have gotten to know Sandy and other people around the country and the world who are brilliant at designing experiences to accelerate learning, whether it is a learning state standards, whether it's therapy, whether it is social emotional growth. And we're going to talk about how do you go about designing these experiences so they get the effect you need. Really fun stuff. And then from 2 to 3, we're going to talk about celebrate hope. We'll do a closing ceremony. And just thank everyone who was part of this gathering. And so this is our online component to the Day of Hope that we just invite you to join us if any part of that works. And it's open to everyone, students, staff, board members, community people, businesses, everyone's welcome. So that's the schedule. And when you register, you will get this briefing guide or this planning guide. You'll get the schedule and the Zoom link for it. And if you want to meet with me and talk more about how to design your own Day of Hope, I'd love to talk with you. It's super fun. And know that we're planning to think about the Day of Hope for next year as an annual event. And we'd love to have you as a partner or someone who participates in this and makes a difference in the world. Any other closing thoughts or?
Well, thank you, Stephen. Jeanette is giving her thanks in the chat here. She's got leaving with a lot to think about. Emily had a question. If folks are registered for the Day of Hope, the sessions and participating, will the sessions be recorded and made available later?
That's a darn good question.
I asked it too because I knew there was at least one person that reached out to me about today's session that they couldn't be here, and they are going to watch the recording. So that made me think about these and how wonderful they sound. And
right,
you know, we should really try and do that. And part of what we do is we're figuring this out together. And for you to say that and with such clarity really makes me think, gosh, we should really do that. And so let's just say we're in the works in that. Is that fair?
That sounds great. Thank you. So if we are asked about that, we could say that
It's in the works.
it's in the works. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
You've tipped the scales. See, part of this in growing hope is making it manageable, right? You know, when you think about flow and the flow diagram, and you can look and Google flow, and flow is when you think about your capacity and the you know, the complexity of something. And what you want to do is you don't want to make something so big it stresses you out. You want to make it so it feels right and it's really something you enjoy doing. And so if we all help each other on the Day of Hope, which Emily, thank you, you've just done that, that what that does is it allows everyone to stay in this joyful space and allows us to keep doing this as a you know, open sourced free thing that we're inviting everyone to.
Well, Stephen, it has been an absolute pleasure to have you with us today and to help us think about ways that we can plan for a Day of Hope, whether we participate on October 14th, the Global Day of Hope, or however we choose to do that, and whenever we do this for ourselves or with people that we are with. And I don't know what I'm doing here with I'm going to stop screen sharing. But what I want to do is bring it home and say thank you very much for being with us. And everyone who is viewing the recording, please go to the website that's been provided. And we hope to see you participating in the Day of Hope and joining Field Adventures in future campfire chats. Where Stephen, we might see you as a participant, we might see you as a facilitator, but know that you're all part of this Field Adventures community. And
Beautiful.
Thank you so very much. And thank you, Emily and Jeanette. Thanks for the applause. Really appreciate it.
I put my email in the chat if you'd like to cut and paste that and send me an email. I'll be happy to help you. Just send me a email and we'll figure it out.
All right. And we'll add the template into our community as well.
Beautiful.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Stephen, and have a lovely day, and get out and take that walk. I know I'm going to.
I know, right? Let's grow hope, everybody.
That's right.
Thank
Bye
you.
all.
Take care.